Well, when I talk about today's topic, some of you are going to sit back and go, oh my gosh, really? Let me turn the channel. Don't. Because there are conspiracies. By the way, I need to go down the conspiracy route. You know what I'm saying? I'll talk about that in a second.
Me too. It's fun.
I know. Lindsay Randall here, along with Ed Dean, and then I'll get to David Williams in a second. Before I get to all of this, don't forget the Florida Daily Show, which go to our YouTube page, like it, subscribe to it. When I mean the word subscribe, you don't have to pay anything. I gotta always tell this to people. You just like it, and and you can watch it at floridadaily.com. But I want to bring in our good friend David Williams from the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. But I want to talk about the issue of AI. And before you start, believe me, I feel your pain, like Clinton. All right, I feel your pain. Who wants to talk about it? What, folks? Wait till we play for you the clips. President Trump likes them. Governor DeSantis doesn't like them. Are they going to take up all of these jobs? Are there not going to be any jobs created? There's some sort of conspiracy with Bill Gates, which I have no clue what the flip they're even talking about. And I like the idea of AI in our government if it's going to be about reducing the size of government where you don't need all of these people. But what about AI in our education system? I kind of like the idea, but some people kind of differ with me on some things. So we'll talk about it. Let me bring up David Williams today, who is the president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Look at him, dude. Just love it. So anyway, and his website, protectingtaxpayers.org. What is the misconceptions on AI?
Well, that's an answer that's going to take a few hours, but let me see if I can distill it down pretty quickly here. Is AI really is everything. It's online banking, right? You go onto your bank and you make these transactions. AI is used. It's healthcare. Oh my gosh, healthcare is being used so much. AI is being used in healthcare so much.
With my smartphones.
Yeah, smartphones, but also, when you go to the hospital, is one doctor talking to another electronically and really diagnosing problems. And so it's a part of our daily lives. And people don't realize that we're using AI almost, every day, every time of the day. And people think about AI, it's big, scary, it's, intruding in our lives. And, the whole idea of regulation of AI, and I'm not making this up, was President Biden. He saw the movie Mission Impossible when AI took over the world, had this doomsday machine, and he's like, we have to regulate this. But seriously, he saw the movie and he freaked out. And he's like, the federal government has to do something. And whenever the federal government does something, it makes it worse.
Okay, hold on. Let me fly through because I gotta play some clips. I want to get to it. Are you 100% pro AI, or are there any concerns about AI that you have?
I have concerns. There need to be guardrails, but I think that you also have to embrace the technology and realize it's going to make businesses more efficient. Manufacturing is going to be more efficient with AI, but absolutely you have to have guardrails with any technology.
Will Lindsay schools, will they be replaced by AI? David?
No. Because there's always going to be the in-person and the kids being in school. Remember during COVID, kids were out of school, and we realized how important it was for kids to come back into school and have the teachers, to have the principals. So I think that there's the fear that schools are going to close down, but they're not. We need to have teachers and kids. We need that human interaction.
Yeah, Lindsay, you've been following this stuff with AI.
Oh yeah. I mean, I use it every day. It's wonderful in some regards, but I agree with Dave. I mean, there's a point where, there's a lot of conspiracies, but is it ever going to have? Some of it is, will it ever develop conscious thought and be able to take over all the things? And that's actually terrifying to me. I remember reading Elon Musk's biography years ago, and he talks about it and how he's flagged it for years and years, and people in Washington have kind of turned their head to it. But it's a real threat.
What is it like? The Terminator movie where the machines turn on? Is that what? That's how people think about AI. Let me play for you a couple clips as we get into this. So here was from Barron's, which is on Fox News. Barron's reporter Josh Schaefer. Now, again, we may cover something for the listening audience out there. That's fine. You can always email me at the Florida Daily site. that we may or may not cover, and that's fine, and I'll try to cover it next time. But there's we're going to try to encompass this for a few minutes on today's show. But a lot of concerns you're seeing a lot of in the jobs market where companies are not hiring so much. Now, we know because of inflation, the war in Iran, and tariffs, but also you've had reports by Amazon and Meta and Facebook. They're not hiring because of AI. Doesn't mean they're getting rid of everybody. They're just not going to hire more. And why? When AI can do it. Josh Schaefer said this clip on from Barron's Financial Magazine. He says it's not going to be what AI looks like over the next 10 years. It's what happens in the next 2 to 3 years, or 3 to 5 years. This is what he said, David.
With how rapid AI is rising and becoming a part of the economy, there's going to be displacement. I don't think anyone's arguing that. Would displacement also be more rapid and you'd see more job losses than you saw in prior tech revolutions because it is bigger? And so where does that put you in 3 years? The argument largely is in 10 years, the pie is bigger. There's probably more jobs. I don't think that debate is that heavy right now. I don't think that's that hot of a debate. It's how bad does it get over the next 3 to 5 years?
Right.
And I think we're still not quite sure yet exactly what happened.
I mean, so what they do is they hear these headlines from CNBC, from our radio show, from Florida Daily. Hey, displacement of jobs out there. That's what they hear. And is that a real concern, David, or is it not a real concern with AI?
I mean, listen, anytime you talk about job displacement, it's a concern. Now, with AI, I don't think it is, because look back at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and the printing press. People were like, oh my gosh, the printing press is going to put so many people out of a job. The Industrial Revolution, we have these machines that can do things now. It's really the same thing. It's just, we're in 2026 and AI is going to be making things more efficient. You're going to have people that work from home being able to do a lot more. So the job market is always changing. The unemployment rate has really nothing to do with AI and vice versa. And yes, I mean, there will be some job displacement. What about the people that are working in the data centers? And we're talking about people that are making $100,000, $200,000 a year.
Yeah. Let me talk about this. I've seen the pictures of these AIs are bigger than a Walmart. I mean, bigger than an Amazon facility. And I want to get to Lindsay here in education and some of the conspiracies, but what is, like, I think again, it could be the governor here in Florida is not a fan of them. Byron Donalds, who could become your next governor here in Florida, not putting the cart before the horse. He says, listen, it's going to happen. Let's just get ahead of the game. And I think what's happened, and I think you've got a lot of it in Virginia where you're at, but in Florida, we spent billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars on these solar panels in the middle of rural counties. Like, hey, whatever, there's an eyesore, whatever, that really haven't flourished to the green new type of deal of climate that we want to see processed. And yet people see that, oh my word, there's these big data centers, but out of all of the massive amount of areas that they take, there's not that many people going to be working there. What is it?
Well, that's just not true, because if you look at a large-scale data center, we're talking about 300 permanent jobs. That doesn't include the construction of the building or the buildings themselves. So there is going to be economic development, and what we've seen across the country is you put a data center in the middle of nowhere, and a neighborhood grows around it, and you see economic development around it. So I think, and listen, first and foremost, no taxpayer subsidies for data centers, full stop. They should not get tax breaks. They need to pay their fair share. So absolutely, no taxpayer subsidies in building these.
Tell that to the lobbyists.
Yeah. Lindsay, come on, you follow the conspiracies worse than I do. What are they?
Oh man, well, that in education alone, that it's going to replace schools, replace teachers, all the things. I mean, there's the 40,000 acre data center going out in Utah that people are kind of freaking out about.
40,000 acres.
40,000 acres. I just learned about this probably last week. I couldn't believe it. And what concerns me is that the amount of power that's generated and used. How is that going to be paid for? And that's why our governor, in the free state of Florida, has been so great about that and not passing that cost along to the consumers. We're already paying up to the wazoo for all of our bills.
Yeah, David,
it's ridiculous.
David, Lindsay's got a great point. That was one of the things that DeSantis said, and I think there's a benefit if an AI data center comes in where, I mean, listen, Amazon or Walmart building a big warehouse is going to also take power off the grid. I mean, that doesn't matter what's an AI or Walmart. But if they could come in and say, guys, we're going to pay for this, this, and that. I'm not saying to force them, but if they're going to be using more power from what we're told compared to other companies, on a percentage level, they're going to pay more. But if they're going to generate more, maybe they do. You sign a deal with them where, hey, they're going to front up some cost here whatsoever.
So what we're doing is we're actually looking at state by state how much electricity these data centers use. And the first state we just actually released today was Maryland. So Maryland, it's 2.5% of all electricity used in the state of Maryland is by data centers. And let's talk about water usage. People freak out about the water usage by these data centers. Well, golf courses, they use a lot more water than a data center uses. So, this is something, we need these comparisons, right? And if you're talking about manufacturing, oh my goodness, manufacturing uses a lot more water, a lot more power. And I saw a stat the other day that if you have a pair of socks, it will take about 34 years of using 100 prompts a day on ChatGPT or some sort of AI to use the same amount of water that a pair of socks uses to produce.
All right.
And no one's talking about not producing socks and clothes. So I think the comparisons are really important here as to how much a data center uses and how much is being used.
So here's a clip from Jerry Willis on the Fox Business Network, and it's all cons, not the pros. It's this, and that, how bad AI data centers are. Here's the clip.
Well, I think we need a broader conversation about these data centers. They're using already 4 to 6% of all of our electricity in this country. They're taking up prime real estate. And I think there are real issues about not in my backyard, energy consumption. What does it mean? Like these buildings are virtually empty. There are not people working. You think there are people working in them. That's not what they're about. So they're just these big, empty, vast spaces that pop up across the landscape.
Now, okay, I'm a fan of the Fox Business Network, but they're taking up prime real estate. No, they're being sold prime real estate. Okay, I mean, that's like saying, well, I want to flood the market. No, somebody's buying up these products for the market to be flooded with. Okay, but when it's taking up prime real estate and stuff, you heard all the opposition against that. I guess that'd probably take another hour for you, but is there going to be more legislation opposing the expansion of AI, or do you think people are going to start embracing it here, Dave?
Well, I think right now people are not embracing it. If you look online, social media, there is a huge backlash against AI, which is kind of interesting that people are using the internet to trash AI and not use data centers, which they kind of need to post online, but that's beside the point. So there's a huge backlash. And I think it's a matter of education, is that AI is not this big scary thing. And Lindsay, to your point, we never want to replace education completely. Listen, I think there's a role for it in the classroom. I don't think there's a role for it to replace schools and to replace teachers. And I think that's where we have to be careful. And of course, AI, there's a lot of horror stories about, photos that are manipulated. So I think there, again, have to be guardrails and safety guardrails and for consumers to know when AI is being used.
All right. So, Lindsay, let me talk about the education component. My belief, and if I'm wrong, knock it out of the ballpark, as I say. One of the things that we hear complaints, I get it, or the kids aren't passing, not your schools, Lindsay, but traditional public schools, whatever. We're over testing, kids are not retaining knowledge. When we were taking economics in college, some of the courses, they'll tell you in the financial world, it's not about whether you can add, it's just about the concepts. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to figure out why, like Common Core math, 2 + 2 is 4, kind of like the reverse idea of Common Core. You teach the concepts of why. I mean, it's pretty simple, but the concepts of, to me, Lindsay, of young, and Dave, jump in after she's done here in a second, but my goal is to have young people retain knowledge. We inundated so many people with, and I get it, there's church programs that are happening every night, soccer program. I mean, everything's ball games, work. And then they still got to take homework. So instead of like saying there's math and then there's a science project on a Tuesday night that's got to be done. So now you got to do all the research. Why don't we sit back and say, instead of the 2 hours, on Monday, let's learn math, maybe do 40 minutes worth of work. Follow me for a second. Tuesday's the science. Wednesday is English or history. And the way to make that 2 hours go to 30 to 35 minutes, a single night where it doesn't eat up all your time, is AI. where AI, again, I'm not saying doing a book report. I know a lot of people are going to be listening. Well, Ed, that will involve cheating. No. They all could sound the same. The goal is for young people to search out this information, to retain the knowledge and information, civics and everything. And this is where I've seen where I think AI can be very beneficial. Again, I'm not saying doing a book report, because when you have an AI that comes out, it gives you alternatives to 15 other sites, which we know they're not going to read, but it helps things out to retain knowledge. And some people tell me this is a bad thing. How is this a bad thing, Lindsay, or am I kind of off the mark?
No, it's not a bad thing necessarily. I think it could be used just like anything. It can be weaponized against thinking. It can be weaponized against our schools. It can be weaponized in the form of bias and just absolute slant. So I think there is a place for it. There is a role for it. It can make things more efficient. However, I do think that one of the purposes, the primary roles in education is to, which this is what we don't do anymore, but it should be to produce free thinking, virtuous humans. AI neither produces a thinker, really, rightly so, because it's you don't really have to think when you're writing. If you're just using AI, you do have to think, and you have to be thoughtful when you're actually using your brain to write and to think and to process problems. So I think it takes away the thinking ability, which is one of the primary, reasons why we have schools in general and why you go to a brick and mortar school. To David's point from earlier, we proved that a virtual school really doesn't work. You need to be in front of a teacher, and we consider the teacher not just the facilitator, but the teacher is the expert in the classroom. I don't want a computer teaching my child. I just don't want it. I want another human being teaching my child, and that's because we are human beings. We are human beings with a soul, and that should count for something.
But when I type in, maybe it's because you got to type in these words. David, if I'm looking at a story, and we know it's going to come up AI first, Lindsay's talking about, well, they listen, I can go to an online publication and say, hey, these people, New York Times editorial, hey, they're thinking for you for a liberal view. I get that. If I type in something, I always type in, what are the pros and cons of this topic? And AI will come up and list from the articles. I don't have a problem with what Lindsay's saying. I just have a little bit of different view. I don't see it as it's thinking and telling me what to believe. That's the reason why if teachers will, or you kind of have a parent that says, hey, let's put the instruments in the proper place and type in again, give me the pros and cons of why a capital gains tax works. Give me the pros and cons why this spending bill. Don't let it think for you. But again, I'm a conservative radio host. Some people, hey, Ed, I listen to this view, I listen to your view. The point that them to even start thinking about this, I give them A for, effort. I'm not saying, I don't know if AI will think for you, but at least allow where there's a proper perspective where you can sit back and say, I want to go against the tide. AI says this, but they point out something in another article that says that. I don't know if the AI is going to think for me, David. I understand where Lindsay's coming from. I just don't see that if we put in the proper tools of getting both sides to a story from AI. I don't want them writing a freaking book report for me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So listen, AI is a tool. It's like a shovel, right? You can use a shovel to dig a hole. You can use a shovel to hit someone over the head with. There are bad uses for shovels, but that we're not getting rid of shovels. And, one idea is we have driving classes. When kids are 14, 15, and 16, they go to these driving classes to learn how to drive a car.
Not anymore, right?
I think there should be curriculum for AI. Is teaching kids how to use AI properly, the pitfalls, the good things, the bad things about AI, because at an early age, they understand the pros and cons of using this. And I remember, listen, I'm old. I'm really old. I went through encyclopedias to do research. Like I had to pick, a book out of a bookshelf and read to find information. So, I love the internet.
David, we had a story in Lindsay that came out. We did about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago at Florida Daily. And it was about some of the Florida jobs, which mirror other jobs in other states that possibly could be replaced, like customer service jobs. But Lindsay, think about it for a second. That if the cost was not as high for employers, like if the left would stop trying to push now they want to do a $25 hour minimum wage and mandated health care, and everything's a mandate. By the way, companies are already giving you this, but they're going to mandate it. Before we had AI, even dadgum McDonald's was going to a kiosk. McDonald's was going to an AI type of a drive-through because of what the government kicked in. Now, I don't know if I'm assuming with all this AI investment we're seeing, and there's a lot of rapid investment because the rate of return will be quicker and better. And the reasons why, Lindsay, is if you don't have to hire an individual, don't have to pay the college to own, you ain't got to pay for the 401k, you ain't got to pay for the healthcare. I get all of that. But if the AI is going down this path, and in the article we talked about where I think Mark Cuban, who is on the Shark Tank, said, maybe the attitude is we start learning to adapt with AI, where if we think there's a red flag with a job, at least we're trained enough to maybe go get another job and stop acting like all the big corporations are doing it. Maybe go get hired at a smaller one. I don't know. Maybe, Lindsay, I'm just putting the cart before the horse. I see pros, and I guess I could see some cons with AI, but in the education system with jobs, I mean, it's computer. Why not just adapt and go along with it?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to adapt some. I just think that it's a slippery slope, especially when you think about who's pushing this. I mean, who's pushing this? Amazon Web Services,
Here we go.
Meta, you have Google. I mean, who stands to benefit? BlackRock is heavily investing. Anytime you think Larry Fink, I'm all ready. Whoo, okay, let's put my little antenna up here.
Yeah,
What's actually going on? So that's what I think is very concerning to me, is who are the ones that stand to benefit, and is this actually good for the American people? I don't know. I mean, I think in some ways it could be, and in some ways it could be detrimental. I mean, I've heard that people are saying in 20 years this technology is going to be obsolete. So we're spending so much, and we're spending, and where's the left in all this? Freaking out about the farmland that's going to be torn up and, used as data centers. We're not going to be farming our own property, our own country anymore, and it's taking up acres and acres and acres. So my thought is, I think that the left should be the one saying, what about global warming? What's happening? We're destroying the ozone layer.
I love it.
And I think it's really weird. This kind of like now the shift on the left is, let's go ahead and do all this. I'm like, why weren't you saying what? I don't understand.
All right, go ahead,
it's kind
David.
of laughable.
Well, there's a really strong movement on the left to stop these data centers. I mean, you have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren saying that there should be a national moratorium, that no data center should ever be built for the next 1 to 5 years. So the left is weighing in on this and
catching up.
Yeah, but it's still, the left is not a progressive type of, I mean, they're progressive, but they're not progressive when it comes to technology. And of course, Amazon, Meta, and Google are talking about this because this is their business. I mean, just like a car manufacturer wants to expand car manufacturing, Google, Meta, and these companies, that's what they do, and they want to expand their business. And, interesting point that if 20 years, this is not the technology, well, then they've wasted all this money.
And then we've torn up so much of our land, and then on top of it, we've passed on all this cost to the American people, so we're going bankrupt. And then these things are just going to be covered in vines and just decaying. That's what I see.
I don't know, Dave, how big of it's like a power company. I mean, there isn't there isn't like a substation on every corner here, David. Lindsay's kind of got an interesting point, what some people are bringing up. It's going to take all these acres. I mean, do you really need that many data AI centers for Orlando, Florida? Between Orlando and Jacksonville, can one just do the whole job, or do you need that many of them like a Walmart supercenter?
Well, let's talk about the 40,000 acres in Utah. Yes, they are buying land, 40,000 acres. It's not going to be 40,000 acres of buildings. They are buying more land than they need, and that land is going to be preserved. And it's not just going to be a bunch of buildings. So I think when we hear these big numbers, there was a story in Fayetteville, Georgia, that a data center was put in, and they weren't paying their water bill. And there were, I think it was like 30 million gallons. The company didn't put a meter. And the company messed up and they were reading the meter incorrectly. So there's just so much misinformation about this. And really, if we stop building these data centers, and that's up to the localities, and some localities have decided that, they're the ones that are going to miss out on this economic opportunity. We have talked to workers at data centers that are like, this thing has changed my life and my family's life economically. I am glad they built this. And these are high paying jobs, and they're massive jobs. Again, a golf course centers has about 200 employees. A massive data center has about 400 employees, and they make a lot more money. And I have not seen anyone trying to shut down a golf course because of the amount of water they use. And golf courses use a heck of a lot more water than a data center does.
Hold on. Remember, I've said this 1,000 times. You go to a city council meeting, they're raising your property taxes. Nobody complains. You raise my golf rates, everybody shows up. You don't touch,
especially in Florida.
Yeah, man. It's like everybody that's 70 and over. I take that back. I'm not even close to that, but I play a lot of golf. But I love the fact, and it's entertaining that Lindsay's BlackRock. Get better, like. I
mean, it's true. Though.
Like you're the catastrophe of the insiders that are taking down the U.S. economy.
Private equity is destroying America. I really believe that. It's buying. They're buying up. I mean, think about in Jacksonville alone, my hometown. There are literally no locally owned air conditioning companies at all. They've all been bought out by private equity.
Schneider Air and all those guys.
Yeah, Donovan and all.
What's the point? Who cares if they bought them out? What's the problem with that?
I'm just saying it's creating a monopoly, and there's going to be no more small businesses anymore, or limited.
I don't know about that. I think.
Sorry, I love these conspiracy theories. I think.
I like them too. It's funny. Everybody wants to throw BlackRock under the bus.
Because we should.
Yeah, but BlackRock finances gun manufacturers. It can't be that bad of a company, or Meta or Google and some of this stuff.
And these are companies that will go bankrupt if private equity didn't step in. I mean, it's like the whole JetBlue Spirit merger, right? Is that the FTC and DOJ said during the Biden administration, no, you guys can't merge. Where's Spirit Airlines now? Gone. I mean, this is, the problem is like, we can't, we have to worry about monopolies. No, we have to worry about jobs. There are a lot of people out of jobs at Spirit Airlines because the Biden administration said you were going to be too big of an airline.
Let me tell you something. Lindsay starts dating a private equity guy. She'll change her mind just like that and become much wealthier. Stop with that. David Williams. Man, Lindsay came. I love it, man. Lindsay was ready to go. I love the conspiracies, man. Yeah, I don't go down the road of Tucker and Candace. Sometimes I just, I follow some of that stuff, just be entertained. But I love a good conspiracy. David Williams from the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. David, what a great discussion. And we could do this for another hour, and we shall sometime.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you came on. David Williams from the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Lindsay, I love the fact that you are up on this stuff. I love the conspiracies. Like, I don't know how Bill Gates is involved, but I mean, I like them. And this is a conversation that's need to take place. I don't think we're even close to having, I'm not saying us, I'm just, that if they use the term tip of the iceberg, I don't know if we're even in the ballpark yet.
I don't think we are either.
I think we're outside getting our tickets.
I think this is moving so quickly.
Okay,
Yeah, it's moving so quickly, and there's so much information that there's not one person that's wrapped really their head around it, and it's constantly evolving too. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds in the next 5-10 years.
Well, we shall do another one. Don't forget to subscribe to our page. Well, again, I use the word subscribe. There is no cost. Go to youtube.com. Just type in the Florida Daily Show. You all watch us also on floridadaily.com, and we'll see you again on the next time right here on the Florida Daily Show.